I never thought a trip to the pharmacy would turn my entire world upside down. But when I grabbed what I believed was my bottle of harmless vitamins from the counter and popped one in my mouth without reading the label, little did I know it was the beginning of the end of my carefully constructed life. By the time Aiden burst into my apartment that evening waving the correct prescription with my name on it, the panic had already set in because the pills I took were his, and the side effects were making me say things I had buried for years. The fluorescent lights of the Seattle pharmacy had felt too bright that afternoon as I waited in line clutching my wallet. I was Theodore, just another 28-year-old graphic designer, trying to keep my head above water in a city that never slowed down. My anxiety had been worse lately, the kind that made my chest tight every time my phone buzzed with another text from my parents asking when I was finally going to settle down with a nice girl. I told myself the vitamins would help, but the pharmacist had been distracted, and when I reached for the white bottle, I didn't notice the name Aiden Brooks printed clearly on the label. Back home, I swallowed one with a glass of water and sat down at my laptop to finish a client logo. Within an hour, the room started to feel warmer, my thoughts looser, as if someone had unlocked a door inside my mind I had nailed shut since college. Aiden and I had been best friends since freshman year at the University of Washington, sharing late-night study sessions, cheap pizza, and inside jokes no one else understood. He was the golden boy everyone loved, athletic, funny, with that easy smile that made strangers turn their heads. I was the quiet one, the reliable one who always showed up, but never let anyone see the parts of me that didn't fit the picture my conservative family painted for me. When the knock came, I opened the door, still riding the strange wave of clarity. Aiden stood there, his blonde hair messy from the rain, his blue eyes wide with worry. "Theo, you took my pills, man. The pharmacist just called me the labels got switched. Those aren't vitamins, they're my anxiety meds, and you're not supposed to mix them with anything." His voice cracked a little, and that small sound hit me harder than it should have. I stared at him, and suddenly the words spilled out before I could stop them. "I've been in love with you since the day we met, Aiden. Not as a friend. As more." The silence that followed stretched so long I could hear the rain tapping against the window. Aiden's face went pale, then flushed, and he stepped inside, closing the door behind him. "What did you just say?" His voice was barely above a whisper. I wanted to take it back, to blame the pills, but the truth had been waiting too long, and now it was free, clawing its way into the light. That single mistaken swallow had cracked open everything I had spent years hiding, and I had no idea how to close it again. We stood there in my tiny living room, the city lights of Seattle glittering outside like distant stars. Aiden ran a hand through his hair, his usual confidence nowhere in sight. "Theo, this isn't funny. You're straight. You've dated girls. Your parents talk about grandkids every time I see them at holidays." I laughed, but it came out bitter. "Yeah, because pretending was easier than facing what I really felt every time you hugged me or crashed on my couch after a bad date. I thought if I ignored it long enough it would disappear. But it didn't." He sank onto the couch, head in his hands. I sat across from him, the weight of what I had just done pressing down on my chest. The pills were supposed to be harmless, something to take the edge off his own stress from his job as a physical therapist. Instead, they had become the key that unlocked my secret, and now the door was wide open with no way to lock it. I waited for him to yell to leave, to tell me our friendship was over. Instead, he looked up, his eyes searching mine. "I need time to process this. But I'm not walking away. Not yet." That night after he left, I lay awake staring at the ceiling, the city humming below. The panic was real now, a tight knot in my stomach, because one careless decision had changed everything. I had exposed my hidden love for Aiden, and there was no taking it back. The next morning, the city woke up under a gray Seattle sky, but inside my apartment, the air still felt charged from the night before. I called in sick to work. My boss didn't ask questions, and I spent the hours pacing between the kitchen and the window, replaying every word I had said to Aiden. The pills had worn off, leaving only the raw truth and the terrifying possibility that I had just lost my best friend. My phone stayed silent, no texts, no calls, and each hour that passed made the knot in my chest tighter. I thought about my family back in Spokane, my father, the retired Marine, who still hung an American flag outside the house, and my mother, who baked pies for church socials every Sunday. They had raised me on stories of duty, honor, and the right way to live. Bringing home a boyfriend was never part of that script. I remembered the way Dad had clapped me on the back after my high school prom with Sarah, telling me I was becoming a real man. The memory now felt like a lie I had been telling myself for years. Aiden finally texted around noon. Coffee at our usual spot? We need to talk. The usual spot was a small cafe near the waterfront where we had spent countless afternoons arguing about movies and dreaming about the future. When I arrived, he was already there, 2 cups of black coffee on the table. His smile was cautious but real, and something inside me unclenched just a little. I didn't sleep much either, he admitted, pushing my cup toward me. I kept thinking about all the times I felt something more, but convinced myself it was just friendship. Theo, I'm gay too. I've been out to myself for years, but never to anyone else. Especially not you. The words hit me like a wave, and for a moment the cafe noise faded away. We sat there, 2 men who had shared everything except the most important truth. Aiden explained how he had dated women in college the same way I had, trying to fit in. His parents in Portland were progressive on the surface, but he still feared their disappointment, especially after his older brother's messy divorce. I didn't want to lose you, he said quietly. You were the one constant in my life. Now everything feels different, but maybe in a good way. We walked along the waterfront after that, the Puget Sound stretching gray and endless beside us. The conversation flowed easier than I expected, filled with questions and small revelations. Aiden admitted he had felt jealous every time I mentioned a date. I confessed the nights I had lain awake wondering what it would feel like to hold him. The misunderstanding from the pills had forced us here, but now it felt like the start of something real. Yet the panic lingered because secrets don't stay hidden forever. That evening my sister called from Spokane, excited about Thanksgiving plans. Mom wants to know if you're bringing anyone special this year, Theo. It's time you settled down. I mumbled something non-committal and hung up, my hands shaking. Aiden noticed when I met him later at the gym. You're spiraling again, aren't you? He asked, wiping sweat from his brow. I nodded, and for the first time I let him pull me into a hug right there in the parking lot, no one around to see. His arms felt like home, and the fear eased just enough for me to breathe. But the world outside our bubble was already shifting. A mutual friend from college, Sarah, who had once dated Aiden, texted me that night. Heard you and Aiden had a big talk. Everything okay? The question seemed innocent, but my stomach dropped. How did she know? Had Aiden told her? The first crack in our fragile new reality had appeared, and I had no idea how wide it would grow. Days turned into a week, and Aiden and I moved carefully through our new normal. We spent evenings at my apartment cooking simple dinners, watching old movies, and talking until the city lights dimmed. Every touch, every shared glance carried new weight. One night, as rain drummed against the windows, he leaned in and kissed me softly, his hand resting on my cheek. It was gentle, no fireworks, just the quiet certainty that this was right. I've wanted to do that for so long, he whispered, and I believed him. The turning point came unexpectedly during a weekend trip to Portland to visit his parents. We had decided to test the waters, telling them we were dating. The drive down the I-5 was filled with nervous laughter and rehearsed lines. His mother greeted us at the door, her smile warm, but her eyes sharp. Over dinner, the conversation turned to my family's traditional values, and I felt the familiar pressure rising. When Aiden reached for my hand under the table, his father cleared his throat. Boys, I'm not blind. But this town isn't as open as Seattle. You need to be careful. The words stung, but we left with cautious hope. On the drive back, Aiden squeezed my hand. We're doing this together, Theo. No more hiding. I wanted to believe him, but back in Seattle, the misunderstandings began. Sarah called again, this time her voice tense. I saw you two at the cafe last week. Look, I'm happy for you, but your mom called me yesterday, asking if you were seeing anyone. I didn't know what to say. The secret was slipping out faster than we could control, and the panic returned sharper than before. My own family visit came sooner than expected. Dad's birthday party in Spokane was unavoidable. I drove up alone, Aiden staying behind to give me space. The moment I walked through the door, my mother hugged me tight. You look different, honey, happier. Is there a girl? The question hung in the air, and I froze. Later in the garage, Dad handed me a beer. Son, life's short. Find a good woman, settle down. That's what men do. His words weren't cruel, just certain, and they cut deeper because I knew the truth would shatter that certainty. When I returned to Seattle, Aiden was waiting at my door, flowers in hand, a small gesture that made my chest ache. We talked late into the night about the future, about coming out to everyone. I'm scared too, he admitted. But losing you scares me more. That conversation became our turning point, the moment we decided to stop running. We made a plan, small steps, first telling close friends, then family, when the time felt right. Yet the world had other ideas. A week later, a co-worker at Aiden's clinic overheard us on the phone, and the rumor spread like wildfire through our social circle. Old friends started texting with questions, some supportive, some confused. The pressure built, and one night Aiden came over, his face pale. My brother called. Someone told him. He's not taking it well, Theo. The betrayal from someone in our circle hit hard, and for the first time I saw real fear in his eyes. We held each other that night, the city quiet around us, knowing the biggest test was still ahead. The revelation to my family happened in the worst possible way. My sister had seen a photo on Sarah's social media, a casual shot of Aiden and me at the waterfront, our hands linked. She called me in tears. Theo, how could you keep this from us? Mom's been crying all morning, and Dad just stared at the wall. The misunderstanding had snowballed into a full-blown family crisis. I drove to Spokane the next day, my hands gripping the wheel, so tight my knuckles turned white. The confrontation was brutal. Dad met me at the door, his face set in stone. Is it true? You and that boy Aiden. The word boy carried years of disappointment. I nodded, unable to speak at first. Mom sat at the kitchen table, tissues in hand. We raised you right, Theodore. This isn't you. It's a phase or confusion from those city friends. Their words cut deep because I had spent my whole life trying to be the son they wanted. Aiden waited in the car outside, giving me space, but I could see the worry in his eyes when I finally walked out. That night back in Seattle, we sat on the roof of my building, the Space Needle glowing in the distance. They need time, I said, but my voice cracked. Aiden pulled me close. We'll get through this. I'm not going anywhere. His loyalty became my anchor as the weeks passed. My sister texted occasionally, cautious updates. Mom sent a card with no message inside. Dad stayed silent. The fracture in my family felt like a wound that might never heal, but Aiden's steady presence reminded me why I had risked everything. Meanwhile, his own family reacted differently. His mother called to say they were processing but wanted to meet me properly. His brother remained distant, sending only a short text that said, "Your choice." The contrast highlighted how different our worlds were, yet we chose each other anyway. We started going to a small support group for gay men in the city, listening to stories that mirrored our own. One man spoke about losing his family only to find a new one in friends and partners. His words gave me hope. The sacrifice came when I had to choose between a big promotion at work and being open about my relationship. My boss pulled me aside after a meeting. "You're talented, Theo, but the clients are conservative. Keep things private, and the job is yours." I thought about Aiden waiting at home, the life we were building. I turned the promotion down, choosing honesty over security. Aiden did the same at his clinic when they hinted he should tone down his personal life. We both lost income, but gained something priceless: freedom. Through it all, our friendship circle shifted. Some friends drifted away, uncomfortable with the change. Others stepped closer, Sarah included, who apologized for the accidental photo and became one of our strongest supporters. The rifts taught me who truly mattered. Aiden and I grew stronger in the quiet moments, cooking together, taking weekend hikes in the Cascades where no one judged. The love that started with a mistaken prescription had become the foundation of a life I never dared dream. As fall turned to winter, the city wrapped itself in holiday lights, and the pressure from both families reached its peak. My parents invited me home for Christmas, but the email specified, "Just you." The exclusion of Aiden stung like a slap. I called Mom, her voice tired. "We're trying, Theo, but it's hard. Give us time." Aiden's family invited us both, and we accepted the offer, spending the holiday in Portland surrounded by cautious acceptance. His mother hugged me at the door, whispering, "Welcome to the family." The warmth contrasted sharply with the silence from Spokane, and for the first time I understood that acceptance wasn't automatic, it had to be fought for. Back in Seattle after the new year, a major turning point arrived in the form of an unexpected letter. My father had written it by hand, the first real communication since the revelation. "Son, I've been thinking. Your mother and I raised you to be honest. If this is who you are, then we need to meet Aiden properly. Come home next month." The words were stiff, but they were a bridge, and I grabbed it. Aiden agreed to go with me, though the drive north was tense. The dinner at my parents' house was awkward at first. Dad shook Aiden's hand firmly. Mom set an extra plate. Conversation stayed safe until dessert, when Dad looked at us both. "I don't understand it, but I see how you look at each other. That's real. We're not cutting you out, Theodore." It'll take work, but family sticks together. Tears welled in my eyes as Mom nodded. The acceptance wasn't complete, but it was a start, and the relief washed over me like rain after drought. Yet not everything was resolved. Sarah's ex-boyfriend from college learned about us and posted a vague comment online that spread through our old network. The online backlash was small but vicious enough to make Aiden withdraw for a few days. "I hate that our love becomes everyone's business," he admitted one night. I held him, promising we would face it together. The incident forced us to confront the societal pressure head-on. We started volunteering at an LGBT youth center, sharing our story with teenagers who reminded us why the fight mattered. Through the winter, our bond deepened in quiet ways. We adopted a rescue dog named Max who filled our apartment with chaotic joy. We planned a small trip to Vancouver for spring break, just the two of us, no expectations, no hiding. Each decision, each shared laugh proved that the consequences of that mistaken prescription had led us exactly where we needed to be. The panic that once gripped me had transformed into purpose. I was no longer the man hiding in plain sight. I was Theodore, in love with Aiden and finally at peace with both. Spring arrived in Seattle with cherry blossoms lining the streets and a sense of renewal that mirrored our lives. Aiden and I had settled into a rhythm that felt both ordinary and extraordinary. Mornings meant coffee and Max's wet nose pushing against our hands. Evenings brought long walks where we talked about the future without fear. The families were slowly weaving us back in. My parents had met Aiden twice more, each visit easier than the last. His brother even sent a grudgingly positive text after seeing photos from our Vancouver trip. The rifts were healing, though scars remained as reminders of how far we had come. A final test arrived when my company offered me a leadership role that required relocating to Chicago. The catch was the conservative corporate culture there. Aiden and I sat on our balcony one evening, the city lights twinkling below as we weighed the decision. "I'll go if you want," he said, "but I love our life here." I looked at him, the man who had stood beside me through every misunderstanding, betrayal, and moment of doubt. "We stay," I answered. "This city saw us become who we are. It's home." Turning down the offer was another sacrifice, but it brought clarity. Our love wasn't about chasing success, it was about building a life true to ourselves. Months later, on a warm summer evening, we stood on the same waterfront where our first real conversation after the pills had happened. Aiden pulled a small box from his pocket, his hand steady. "Theo, I don't need a big moment or perfect timing. I just need you. Will you marry me?" The ring was simple silver with our initials engraved inside. Tears blurred my vision as I said yes, pulling him into a kiss that felt like coming home. Passers-by smiled, some clapped, and for the first time the world's gaze felt supportive rather than threatening. Our wedding was small, held in a park overlooking the Sound with close friends and both families present. My father walked me down the aisle, his grip firm. "Proud of you, son," he whispered. Aiden's mother hugged us, both tears streaming. The day was filled with laughter, stories, and the quiet knowledge that we had earned every moment. Max wore a bow tie and stole the show. As we danced under string lights, I looked at Aiden and saw the boy from college, the man who had changed my life, and the partner I would face every tomorrow with. The journey that began with a mistaken prescription had taken us through panic, revelations, family fractures, and hard-won acceptance. It taught me that love between two men isn't just possible, it's powerful enough to reshape everything. We had grown not despite the challenges, but because of them. True or false? In modern society, a man's hidden love for another man will always overcome traditional family expectations and societal pressure if he finds the courage to face the truth.